The surprise news this afternoon from my colleague Andrew Clennell that there might be a surplus announced next Tuesday night should not fool anyone. If there is a surplus, it'll be no thanks to the government, just the happy accident of resource prices at record levels. It'll be due to good luck rather than good economic management. And good economic management is what really matters. It'll be only for 1 year, I might add, and that's important. What's more, from every indication we've had, this is a budget where the government is going to shower cash on people so that they can spend more to pay their bills and cope with rising prices. But at the same time, we've got the Reserve Bank continuing to jack up interest rates to try and force people to spend less to get inflation down and stop prices going up and up. In other words, just as the Reserve Bank is taking money out of our pockets via interest rate hikes, the government's trying to put money back into our pockets via energy subsidies, higher dole payments, and a massive pay rise for aged care workers. Now, it doesn't make much sense, does it? Either we need less spending to get inflation down, or we need more spending to cope with the cost of living crisis. But we can't simultaneously need both less spending and more spending, because the net result of that is that the Australian economy ends up like a car where the driver's hitting both the brake and the accelerator at the same time. Now, honestly, this is a mess. But let's focus on the big headline news that the government's going to spend a whopping $11 billion to give aged care workers a 15% pay rise, all 250,000 of them across the country. For some, that will be a boost, an annual boost of $10,000 to $15,000. Now, as much as we all value the work of the aged care sector, there's devil here in the detail. Since when it has been the government's job to directly subsidise the pay of private sector workers, even those whom we think are doing it tough? Aged care workers are not government employees. They work for aged care providers, some of which are charities, some are not-for-profits, and some are for-profit in the commercial sector. There's still a few too, owned and operated by state governments, like here in Victoria. If the federal government thinks that aged care workers are underpaid, it should fix the aged care funding system, more co-payments, and other changes that might enable aged care employers to better pay their staff. Or people like Daniel Andrews. I mean, he runs nursing homes. He should put his money where his mouth is and pay his Victorian government workers better. But why should federal taxpayers pay anyone who isn't a federal employee and give them a wage hike? Worse still, there's no guarantee that workers will even see this $11 billion payday, because the Albanese government isn't paying the money directly to them. It can't, as I said, it doesn't actually employ them. Instead, it's paying the money to their bosses, and only some of these companies have committed to pass the money on. Now, see how unorthodox all this is? And I wonder what will be the strings attached to this largesse. Will the government demand employers sign up to relevant unions? In other words, will Labor use taxpayer dollars to boost union membership? Now, watch that one closely, that's my tip. This is yet another sign that the government's completely clueless, if not deeply hostile to the private sector, like its price caps on coal and especially on gas. And by corrupting the market in this way, all the Albanese government has done is jeopardise future investment in new gas supplies, which will drive prices up in the medium term and ultimately jeopardise the resource security on which our country depends. Now, I know families are hurting. A family with a $750,000 mortgage is paying $1,600 a month more than they did a year ago. That's a $20,000 hit with after-tax income. But the way forward is not more and more debt-fuelled government spending that'll ultimately have to be paid back tomorrow by the same taxpayers getting this short-term benefit today. The way forward is to make our economy more efficient by eliminating the kind of government interventions that are driving prices up, like the emissions rules that are playing havoc with our power prices. The great irony in today's surplus speculation is that this is a government that just doesn't get markets, but might have its ineptitude hidden on the budget on Tuesday by an entirely fortuitous surplus driven by a tax windfall from the very fossil fuels it wants to ban. Now, that's lucky for the government, not so lucky for us.